If you've watched any number of my video blogs, I hope that a pivotal truth comes through. I never try and be controversial for controversial's sake. It isn't about let's see how edgy we can be because that will get us more views, more likes, and all that stuff. That's never been our goal as a team. It's never been my goal. And so today I'm going to share with you something that if you are a betrayed spouse, you're probably, at least some of you are going to find this extremely controversial. And so before you go any further, I would just caution you to let you know that today is going to be a video that kind of opens up the world of the unfaithful and their struggles and what they're going through and what they're going to have to go through eventually. If you're betrayed, it's going to really help you kind of get a picture for some of the recovery work that your unfaithful spouse is going to have to do. But if you are still in a mindset where you're very angry and not able to kind of understand the need for compassion eventually towards your unfaithful spouse, this may be unsettling. I hope that you can hear this objectively. If you can't, I'll understand if you tune out and don't continue to watch it. Or if you try and watch it and eventually go, yep, not going to do that, that's fine too. This is not a video that's going to justify the choices of the unfaithful. This is not a video, and I'll never do a video that will justify the choices of the unfaithful spouse or any of that nonsense. But this is a vital component to the recovery journey of the unfaithful spouse. And I hope that you, as a betrayed, can hear it, objectively absorb it, and for the unfaithful spouse that is trying to save their relationship, you can maybe understand another quotient, if you will, of the unfaithful's heart and the unfaithful's struggle that they must go through if they're going to heal and be a whole person. If you're an unfaithful spouse, man, I hope, and I do come from a posture of faith, I pray that this video hits you right between the eyes, but more important than hitting you right between the eyes is hitting you right in the chamber of your heart that will set you free, give you better clarity, help you understand that this is something that I really believe every unfaithful spouse has to go through. Some unfaithful spouses find it a little bit easier. Some of us find it incredibly difficult, and it's a very misunderstood idea. It's a very misunderstood process. As you walk with me through this video, I hope that the lights will come on. I hope that compassion fills your heart. I hope that empathy radiates throughout your entire being and you see this concept in a brand new way that doesn't just set you free, that doesn't just unlock you, if you will, but it unlocks you in a way that causes you to actually display empathy and remorse and humility to your betrayed spouse, but also to yourself. So, I know after such a long intro you might be thinking, Samuel, get to the point. The point of today's video is the unfaithful must learn how to forgive themselves. You see, if the unfaithful spouse doesn't forgive themselves, they remain stuck. It caters towards defensiveness. Oftentimes, one of the reasons why the unfaithful may continue to get so defensive is what's welling up inside of them when you're in a heated conversation is their own self-hatred, their own animosity and resentment towards themselves for the choices that they have made. Number two is it creates inside of us a deep-seated anger. Now, look, the truth is we're angry at a lot of things. But for today's discussion, we're angry at ourselves. We haven't forgiven ourselves, but our anger comes out at you, the betrayed, or it comes out at how people haven't treated us right or handled our failures right or what have you. But a lot of it is because we have not worked through the anger that we have at ourselves. We can't believe we've done what we've done. And so we are angry and it comes out at you because we haven't been able to forgive ourselves yet. Number three is it really causes this deep-seated shame to come up inside of us, which then prevents us from being compassionate and empathetic and understanding. And what's really going on is shame makes it about us. Shame says, I am a bad person. I'm a terrible human being. I have done the unforgivable. I will never be a good human being again. And the problem is shame causes us, the unfaithful, to focus on us, our pain, our hurt, our shame, our confusion, our anger, all of this stuff, and doesn't let us focus on you, the victim of our choices. And so when we haven't forgiven ourselves, we're still locked in shame. We're still radiating with self-hatred and all that our choices have cost us, and all the pain we have done to ourselves, which then gets into self-loathing and self-hatred and feeling sorry for ourselves and self-absorption. If you're a betrayed, you know all this. And it causes us to remain, in many ways, paralyzed because we are trying, but we're not working smarter. We're even trying to work harder, but we're locked up because the missing ingredient is forgiving ourselves. It also caters towards incredible discouragement, because we haven't forgiven ourselves, and so we're locked in this place of hopelessness and despair, and so we don't find any encouragement. We don't think that we're worth it. We don't think that, man, we're ever going to live again or be free again, and we're going to be doomed, and we're locked in this prison, and we're unable to get a vision for what the future can look like because we are still so locked up in hatred for ourselves. Now, before I go any further, please do not think that this is a video, and hopefully if you're a betrayed, you've hung around this long to hear me say, this is not a video of, oh, woe is me, the unfaithful. Feel sorry for me. Stop being angry at me. You just need to look at me with compassion because, oh, I haven't forgiven. No, absolutely not. But this is an explanation for what's going on inside of us unfaithful. This is an explanation of why and how we remain stuck. And you may, as a betrayed, not be able to hear this objectively yet, and that's totally fine. You may be able to understand that maybe some of the reasoning behind your unfaithful's actions is that they are at war with themselves and have yet to be able to extend mercy and forgiveness to themselves. And until they do, they're going to continue to struggle with these issues. Now, let me give you some things that forgiving yourself does not mean, because I know that due to the dysfunction, the struggle, the confusion, the deception that we unfaithfuls fall into, we can make some assumptions and some observations and try and use them to justify our actions, and we can go to our betrayed and say, see, you're making it hard for me to forgive myself. And that's not true. That's absolutely not true. And here's what forgiving ourselves does not mean. Because if we think that we can use this as a way to justify our actions or kind of make the betrayed feel sorry for us, we're missing it. So I'm trying to really toe the line and be very gracious to you unfaithfuls, because I understand that world, having been an unfaithful, but I also want to give you some boundaries here so that you don't try and use this in a way to justify your actions. Forgiving ourselves, number one, does not mean that what we did was okay. It does not mean that, well, you know, I had an affair, or I had several affairs, or I've acted out for years and decades, but I haven't learned how to forgive myself, so it's okay. And that's just not true. It doesn't mean that our betrayed spouse or partner hears this and goes, oh, well, I just feel so much compassion and mercy for you, and everything is okay now because I understand you haven't forgiven yourself. Absolutely not true. It also doesn't mean that the betrayed spouse should just get over it. Just because we're at war with ourselves doesn't mean that we still didn't cheat and didn't act out and didn't have numerous affairs, or even one affair, or an affair over 10, 20, 30 years. It does not mean that the betrayed spouse needs to get over it. This is our war, not theirs. They're caught up in the tornado of all of our choices and discombobulation and chaos and hypocrisy. It's not about saying that what we did was okay and that they need to just get over it. It doesn't work that way. What it also does not mean is that all is forgiven. And I just implore you to not take the mentality that is in error that would say, well, I've forgiven myself, you should forgive me too. It does not work that way. They are the victim of your choices, and you cannot rush the betrayed's timeline. It is insulting. It is absolutely insulting and disrespectful, and even wounds your betrayed spouse more to try and rush them or tell them how long they should take to heal. I'm sorry, it does not work that way. You cannot insist that they forgive you just because maybe you have forgiven yourself. It also does not mean, look, I've forgiven myself. Why do you keep bringing it up? Doesn't work. They keep bringing it up because they're trying to heal, or they're angry, or they're stuck, or they're traumatized. And just because you've forgiven yourself does not mean that they should not bring it up again. Does not mean that they can't bring it up again. This is about your own healing, Unfaithful. It also does not mean that this is a quick and easy process that one day you'll just go, you know what? I'm going to forgive myself and everything's going to get better. I'm going to tell you this is going to be a process. This is going to take warfare. This is going to take a commitment on behalf of your own unfaithful self to yourself to work through it, to extend mercy to yourself, and to forgive yourself for your choices, which have caused an incredible amount of hurt and pain. And finally, probably one of the most hard-hitting truths that I've told you today is that just because you are choosing to forgive yourself does not mean that you get to demand that everybody else forgives you or that everybody else should forgive you in the timeline that you insist upon. It does not work that way. You do not have the right to insist that other people forgive you. In fact, it works in the opposite way. When you've truly forgiven yourself, you don't need other people's forgiveness per se because you have found healing, you have found restoration, you have found an incredible sense of freedom. It does mean that you want your betrayed spouse's forgiveness, but you're willing to tolerate however long that timeline must be because you understand the warfare that you've had to go through to forgive yourself. So you understand the warfare that your betrayed spouse must go through to forgive you. It takes time. It takes a process. It takes healing. It takes restoration. It takes making amends. And just because you've forgiven yourself, the worst thing that you can do is say, well, I've forgiven myself. Why doesn't everybody else forgive me? Everybody else should forgive me too. That's not extending compassion to the victim of your choices. That's not extending compassion to others for what your choices have done to them. I wanted this to be one video, but it's going to have to be two. Next time, I'm going to talk to you about what it does mean to forgive yourself, what it does mean for the unfaithful spouse to forgive themselves. I hope today's been insightful. If you are a betrayed spouse and you've hung with me throughout this whole video, I'm so proud of you. I'm so thankful that you listened to it. I hope that you have gained some information and insight into the mind and the warfare of some of us unfaithfuls and what we go through. If you're an unfaithful, I hope that this has hit home. I hope that this has challenged you. I hope that it's confronted you. I hope that it's even comforted you. Next time, we'll talk about what forgiveness does, in fact, mean for you in your own journey.